Welcome to the Sarah Scoop Show. It's time to get the scoop with Sarah.
I'm Beth Reekles. I'm the author behind The Kissing Booth. And oh gosh, I mean, what else do I say about myself? So The Kissing Booth 2 takes off where we left off with the first film. So it starts with Elle and Lee in senior year, and Noah's obviously at the other end of the country in Harvard. There's a new guy at school called Marco that Elle's getting quite friendly with, and a girl called Chloe at college that Noah starts to get quite close with. So, they're trying to juggle kind of this long distance relationship plus, their new friendships with other people. I think as well there's quite a lot of tension with Lee and Elle's friendship, because obviously with Noah gone, Elle becomes kind of a bit of a third wheel for Lee and Rachel. So Lee has to figure out how to deal with that as well. Really strange for me because I was watching it thinking, I know how I'd react to this if I was just watching it as a movie, but obviously, I was involved in the storyline and things like that. So I know exactly where it's going to end up, which just means I'm watching it kind of with this big grin on my face thinking, oh, I know how someone else is going to react to this scene. But I watched it with my little sister yesterday, and I just kept turning around to see her reactions at certain moments that I just knew she'd love. Watching these characters come to life, because they've been in my head for the last 10 years, and the casting is so well done. I really trusted Vince Marcello with my story, my characters when I first spoke to him, and he's not let me down. So it's really strange to see them coming to life on screen, and the dynamics and all the little character quirks about them is just amazing. The books in America, because when I wrote it, I kind of thought, oh, well, there seems to be a certain amount of freedom for kind of 16, 17-year-olds in America that we don't necessarily have here in the UK. Even just being able to drive that year earlier kind of made a difference. And kissing booths don't seem like a very British concept. So I've been working on the sequel since 2012, kind of writing it and rewriting and editing it and things like that. And actually kind of going to set for the first movie, that really helped me just kind of rediscover that love of my characters a little bit. Kind of Lee's storyline kind of altered a little bit after that, because I kind of just got inspired seeing Joel as Lee on set. But the reason I wrote the second book was because I just couldn't let go of these characters. I kept saying to people when they'd asked me online if I was going to write a sequel that I wouldn't. But I wanted to write one for myself, because I had this idea of a big Thanksgiving scene and all the tension that's kind of built up with Elle and Noah with their long distance relationship, and trying to balance that with kind of their friendships with Lee. And the idea of the Thanksgiving scene was the reason I wanted to write the whole book. Thanksgiving, because it was just, like I said, it was the reason I wrote it, but it was so much fun to work on, especially because kind of Amanda in the book, or Chloe in the movie, is kind of evolved in that. So, and she was a really great character to explore. It was certainly as dramatic and as tense as I'd imagined it, but that was one of those where I'm watching it and it feels really strange, because I know how I'd react if I was just watching it. But because I'm watching, this is the reason I'm just kind of, I've got this giant grin on my face, like some kind of cartoon movie villain or something. Like, yes, this is amazing. Everyone's going to be up in arms about it. I only went to set for a week for both movies, because I have a full-time regular job outside of writing. So I just had to take the time off work and go out. But I got to be there for the big dance competition in the sequel, which was just phenomenal to see happen. Surreal's definitely the word. It's like some weird sort of fever dream, because obviously Joey and Taylor and everyone, they're real people, and you kind of want to bond with them and talk to them, but at the same time I'm looking at them thinking, this is just like really, really strange because you're just kind of living out this thing that's been in my head for so long. Because I originally posted it on Wattpad and people used to comment saying, oh, you should make a movie of this. And I'd laugh and think that's never going to happen. But like, I guess what do I know? 2 movies later. Like, I didn't even dream that we were going to get a second movie. So it's just really wild. Like I said, I originally published it on Wattpad, this online story sharing platform, so I could sort of just upload the chapters every week or so. And it was really popular on the site and then got picked up by a publishing house who had a relationship with Comics, this small UK production company. And so we sold the rights to them in 2013, quite early on after I'd done the publishing deal. So then kind of from that point to the movie coming out, it's 5 years, and it was always very slow progress. Kind of, you know, nothing would happen for a while, and then there'd be a flurry of activity, and they'd say, "Oh, we've got Vince on board, and he's going to do the script, and he's going to direct, and here's a copy of the script for you to give some feedback on and talk to us about." And then there would kind of be nothing, and then, you know, they'd call me up and say, "We're doing it with Netflix. We've got Netflix on board, and we're going to start doing the casting." And, you know, then they call me and say, "We've got Joey King and Molly Ringwald. It's going to be amazing." And then, you know, I go to set for a week and there's kind of nothing for about a year until, you know, the trailer's going to come out just before the movie released in 2018. And people would keep saying to me, well, what's going on with the movie? And I was like, you know, I wasn't allowed to say for quite a while that it was going to be on Netflix or that, you know, when it was coming out. So I'd have to sort of bottle it all up. So it was very strange when it did come out because, you know, everyone's celebrating it. And I was like, yeah, but I've known about this for 5 years, so this is just a bit weird for me now. Felt like I could breathe a little bit. Like, relationships take work, and, you know, whether that's a romantic one or a friendship, because you see that kind of on both sides for Elle with her relationship with Noah and with Lee, and as well with Marco, you know, being kind of the new character in the movie. I think that's probably like the main theme of it. That wasn't something I was involved with. So, like I say, it was just kind of a case. I got a call from the producers and they'd say, oh, we've got Joey King, we've got Molly Ringwald. And I remember seeing a picture on Joey's Instagram of her with Joel and Jacob, but at that time they hadn't been announced as the cast. I remember screenshotting it and sending it to the family group chat, like, I think this is Lee and Noah. And if it is, they're perfect. It probably sounds really bad, but I didn't, because I'm really bad with coming up with stuff like that. And I was just excited to see, like, I talked this through with Vince when we had one of our conversations at the start of the process, where I said, I don't mind if the characters don't look like I imagined them, as long as they kind of portray the characters and it feels like I'm seeing, you know, Elle on screen, even if it doesn't look like the Elle that I pictured on set of the first film. And there's a bit where Noah smirks. And in the book, you know, it's the trademark smirk. So I'd had this smirk in my head for like years. And Jacob did the smirk, and my dad was with me, and I just kind of like punched him in the arm, like, oh my God, that's Noah. The cast, yeah, mostly on like Instagram and stuff like that. But on the first movie, I was kind of just so wrapped up in sitting in front of the monitors that I didn't kind of socialize a lot. And I was a little bit intimidated as well, because they'd obviously all formed these friendships having been there for a while. And I felt like some kind of interloper, but they all made me feel so welcome. And then when I came back the second time, everyone was so excited to see me and we got to hang out a little bit more. So yeah, it was great. And we just got really, really lucky with such a great cast. This is where it's strange, because like a lot of things happen in the background, or that I could talk about to, like, you know, my family or a couple of my best friends, but that I can't publicly talk about. So I get to kind of deal with those emotions months or years before it's public knowledge. And like, so that's just all a bit weird. And then I think the main way my life has changed is that it used to be, I'd say to people, you know, that I just met through work, oh, well, I write books. And they'd say, oh, what kind? and then there would just be like a really blank expression on their face. But now I say, you know, The Kissing Booth on Netflix, and there's like instant spark of recognition. They're like, oh, my daughter loves that film, or oh yeah, my wife's watched it like a dozen times. I'm like, yes, look, I wrote that. That's my book. It's really wild, and I'm so thrilled that, you know, they did connect with the characters in the story that much, and, you know, enough so that we got a second one. So it's just kind of really gratifying, and it's really exciting. And I think, you know, for my part, I'm always trying to see what people are saying about it. And often as well, people say, oh, this is like something off a Wattpad book that a 15-year-old would write. And I'm like, yes, it actually was, just to let you know. It was the kind of book I wanted to read at the time, kind of being a teenager, and kind of, you know, all your friends are kind of starting to date, and boys are such a big thing. And, you know, there's just like a lot of emotions that are brand new to be dealing with. So it was really fun to, like, especially with the sequel, to kind of go back and explore that in a slightly different way. Like, it was really strange kind of being older than the character this time and doing the sequel, but it was so much fun kind of getting back into that mindset and thinking, you know, kind of, I guess, reminding myself what was so important to me. And it was, you know, I didn't prioritize things like grocery shopping or laundry or bills back then. But like for Noah, he's just starting college, so his priorities are starting to shift, you know, towards that kind of direction. So that was really interesting to do as well. The first one got such a great fan reception and stuff that Netflix went ahead and greenlit a second one. So I guess we're gonna have to ask Netflix and just wait and see. I certainly hope so at some point, because that would be amazing. But actually, this week we just announced I've done a publishing deal for a book I wrote in April on Wattpad again, called Lockdown on London Lane. So it was basically a collection of short stories following 20-somethings all in lockdown in the same building. So, and they're all kind of intertwined, a little bit like something like Love Actually or something. So that was obviously inspired by the whole pandemic situation, but, you know, they were all kind of in different stages of relationships, and there's, you know, my usual kind of themes of strong friendships in there as well, like with Alan Lee. So that's slated for release winter 2020. Yeah, it's the kiss between Elle and Noah at the kissing booth. And again, when I started writing the book, I kind of had the idea of the characters, and I thought, oh, and Elle's going to kiss Noah at the kissing booth. And I could kind of picture that kiss. So that, again, that was kind of the reason I started writing that book. And when I saw it on screen, it just felt like everything I'd felt, kind of, you know, thinking about that scene and writing it. And I just cry every time I watch it. I get a bit emotional when I think about it, because it was just, that just like encapsulated everything about the kissing booth for me. Hank Green is next up on my to read list with his sequel to An Absolutely Remarkable Thing, because I love that book, and I think it's so interesting, like the way he talks about social media and everything like that. To write the kind of book you want to read, because I just think you're so much more motivated when you do that, like, you know, to finish the whole project. And also it's just so much more fun when you do that. And I always recommend as well sharing it online. So whether, you know, if it's a fan fiction on something like Archive of Our Own, or, you know, on a site like Wattpad, because even seeing just like 3 or 4 people reading your book and consistently reading each chapter is like, it's such an incredible feeling. And writing's a really solitary activity. So having that kind of sense of community and other people kind of giving you confidence in yourself is like, that's just huge, especially for kind of younger writers like I was. Wouldn't have told my 15-year-old self anything, because I just had so much fun with it. But just after I got the book deal when I was 17, I thought I had to like take myself seriously all of a sudden, and I'm really, really bad at that. So I got really unmotivated to write, kind of didn't work on much of anything. It sucked all the fun out of writing for me when I did try and write. So if I could tell my 15-year-old self something, it would be to just keep having fun and to not take myself seriously later down the line.
Thank you for watching The Sarah Scoop Show. Head to sarahscoop.com for more.